Hey everyone, welcome to BelleAire Radio. I'm Sarah Kelly, and I'm sitting here with the best.
I am great, and I appreciate you having me along for this best of edition. I can't wait to see what you found for us to listen to today. And Mykia's uncle is James Brown, is that right? And I know it must have been a thrill for her. I know we certainly enjoyed hearing from James Brown. And she and our Professor Coleman from Journalism and Media Studies Department got a chance to talk with him. And I thought it was absolutely a fantastic Q&A.
I love being at that event because he paid inside of how it is to be in the media, how to follow, your dreams and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool because a lot of us that are in this department want to be released.
And I think there was a lot of good life lessons for anyone. And I'm really glad that the people out there get a chance to hear this.
Let's get into it. Let's hear about the greatness that we heard.
5, 4, 3. And welcome everyone to another edition of Inside the NFL right here on Showtime. I'm James Brown along with three of the most handsome guys.
It gives me great honor, joy, and pleasure to welcome legendary sports broadcaster Mr. James Brown to Bennett College. Mr. Brown is a Washington, D.C. native, graduate of DeMatha High School, and is an esteemed alumnus of the illustrious Harvard University with a degree in American government. While studying at Harvard, Mr. Brown also played basketball and even served as team captain. In the mid-70s, Mr. Brown was drafted to the Atlanta Hawks but fell short of making the roster. However, that will not be the last time he was seen in the sports world. Post-Harvard, Mr. Brown worked in corporate America for 5 years before he found himself back into sports. In 1978, Mr. Brown became an analyst for the Washington, then Bullets, now Wizards, and a year later landed a job with BET Sports as a basketball analyst. In the 80s, Mr. Brown freelanced for WUSA, a CBS affiliate station in Washington, D.C., CBS Sports, and WJLA, an ABC affiliate station in Washington, D.C., all before ultimately landing his full-time position as sportcaster for CBS Sports. In 1996, he was inducted into the Harvard University Hall of Fame. Mr. Brown has covered 2 Winter Olympics, 8 Super Bowls. He's hosted the NFL on Fox show alongside colleagues Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, and Jimmy Johnson. He's won 3 sports Emmys, an outstanding sports personality and studio host. He was named Best Studio Host of the Decade by SportsIllustrated.com. He even received the Uncommon Award from Tony Dungy for his uncommon leadership through character and faith. Mr. Brown is the co-founder and principal of the Brown Technology Group, a certified minority-owned and operated information technology company he started with his brother, Terrence Brown. He's also the founding partner of the Washington Nationals. You can catch Mr. Brown hosting NFL Today and Thursday Night Football on CBS Sports. You can also catch him on Inside the NFL on Showtime. As of 2012, Mr. Brown has officially been named special correspondent for CBS Evening News. He also contributes to 60 Minutes, 60 Minutes Sports, CBS Sunday Morning, and CBS This Morning. In addition to all of the amazing contributions that he's made to the sports and business world, he is also a pastor, philanthropist, and author. His book, Role of a Lifetime, is part memoir, part self-help, and it offers values and encouragement to people. Most importantly, he is my Uncle James. He has motivated me. He has encouraged me. He has supported me. And he has shown me that it is possible for me to achieve my dream of becoming a journalist. And today, I hope he will inspire you the way he has always inspired me.
I was going to say, let's give a round of applause if I beat me to it.
I guess I should start off saying I'm too dark to blush. That was very nice, Mykia. Thank you very much. I love it when they say legendary, old. I know what that is. Go ahead. I'll let you guys start.
After hearing all of your accomplishments, I know you hear it all the time, does it ever make you feel like, wow, like, I really did a lot of stuff. Like, I'm really legendary James Brown. Like, does it ever sit in, like, wow, I did all of this?
Many years ago, because of my spiritual foundation, I refuse to allow the blessings that have happened to affect me in terms of thinking that I'm any better than anybody else or that I have arrived, because I always want to maintain an attitude that there's still more to come. There's a lot more that I want to do until the time that my time is up here on earth. But I am extremely humbled. I'm very thankful. I had some great parents. I'm one of 5 kids in a family. My mother and father, God bless them, were very hardworking parents, high school educated. And I'm sure not unlike many of you, parents who worked extremely hard to give you an opportunity to go further in life than they did. So I am always mindful of the sacrifices that my mother made. I mean, this morning at the Charter Day service that was held, Reverend Raquel Gill was flat out awesome in reminding how many people have poured into us, Dr. Fuse Hall, and I always stay mindful of that. Even at this advanced age and stage in my life, I'm still very mindful of that. So I'm very thankful, but I want to make certain that excellence continues to be the target that I shoot for, no matter what, and continue to enjoy the journey. I hope that answers the question. Hey, but first of all, let me just say thank you guys so very much for having me here today. I am truly thankful to be here. And chatting with Dr. Fuse Hall earlier, I had no idea how significant this day would be for me as I got a chance to see what this university, what this college is all about, how many very talented women and faculty are here. And trust me, you've got a strong public relations agent now, Ms. Foster and everyone else. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to social media. And when people were talking about tweeting, I went out and bought a bunch of doves and pigeons to kind of send out information. So I guess I can use my social media now. But I'm going to let the world know how awesome this university is, this college is, with the talent here. And I thank you very much.
Several times where you spoke about success and maintaining success and achieving success. Can you talk to our audience about your points that you always want to hit?
Before I got into broadcasting, I worked in corporate America. I worked at Xerox and Eastman Kodak, and that was all a result of me not realizing my dream of playing professional basketball. Even though I had a great high school career at DeMatha High School All-America, recruited by over a couple of hundred colleges, opted to go to Harvard because of what my mother and father, God bless them, were saying about the academic foundation being the key for success in the game of life. I still wanted to play professional basketball. In high school, I'm sure you saw from those black and white photos, I was knocking in as my colleagues would know. I was weighing about 195 pounds then. Right now, I'm knocking in at about 205 pounds. So when basketball didn't work out for me, I started working in corporate America with Xerox and Eastman Kodak. And very valuable lessons learned in working in corporate America, lessons that applied no matter what environment you're in. And I'll just tick them off without getting into my usual speech about it. But there was an executive at Xerox who talked to all of us new employees about understanding 7 ingredients to be successful in the game of life. And it was entitled The Objective and Subjective Criteria for Success. Under the objective, there was only one criterion, and that was to be able to do the job. I was in sales. That means meeting your quota each and every month, exceeding it preferably. One criterion. But many people get bounced out of the work world because of not understanding the elements under the subjective category that I heard some of the local reporters talking about are very important to keep in mind when you're working in any environment. And quickly, I think the 7 are communication skills, understanding that communication skills consist of speaking, writing, and most importantly, listening. Number 2, being prompt, on time for the job, all the time. Because being prompt and on time makes a statement about you that you're dependable, that you're reliable, that you have respect for other people's jobs. The 3rd point might have been your dress and attire. Recognizing the environment that you're in. Kerry Charles is up here, neatly attired. That is the professional uniform in a work environment, certainly in the media, and he represents that. And the lesson that I learned there when I got cut by the Atlanta Hawks, this big-time Harvard alum sent me for a job at IBM, and I'm a ball player. Nobody talked to me about the importance of being dressed neatly. So I go over to the job, and I got this humongous afro sitting out about 10 feet high. I got these thick mutton chop sideburns. Miss Foster, I had a velvet blue Bama bow tie on, powder blue shirt, plaid blue suit, thick stack heel shoes, and a shoulder bag. I looked a mess. And so the boss came out of his office and he said, okay, James Brown, Harvard University, 3.5 grade point average, captain of the basketball team, Harvard Speakers Forum. Wow, that's a pretty good candidate. And he looked over at me and he turned to his assistant and asked, well, where's James Brown? And I stood up, here he is. And of course, I didn't say it that way. He called me back into the office and he read me the riot act to let me know that I was not professionally attired. And had he not known the person who sent me there, he would have gone through a perfunctory interview and bounced me out of there in about 5 minutes because I failed to understand what was appropriate in a work environment. So your dress and attire makes a big statement. Being able to work in a diverse environment, your people skills. And in this environment today, it is critically important to make certain that we see the strengths that are represented in our diversity as opposed to the narrow, bigoted mindset of thinking because somebody doesn't look like you or bring the same things to the table that they aren't meaningful contributors to the team. Intellectual curiosity. We should always be in the mode of wanting to learn because to the degree that your colleagues and your superiors recognize that you have a hunger and a thirst to learn as much as possible, you will always be viewed as a go-to person that folks would want to talk with. Sixth was overcoming adversity and difficulties. The Bible says that into every life there will be trials and tribulations. As I was listening to Liz talk about maybe some of the things that she has not encountered as a blonde woman in the business, or as Tracy McCain was talking about being an African American woman, whether the difficulties are overt or subtle, they always will be there. But the philosophy that you stand on, the principles, and as a Christian minister, my foundation is absolutely my faith foundation, period. That has been the foundation which has helped me to overcome a number of challenges in this business and in life. And then finally, you can have fun when you're winning. When you're winning and doing things well, you can have fun, and you ought to have fun in a job. And I did hear Liz say that she thoroughly, and Tracy McCain definitely said that she passionately loves her job.
For young journalists, when they're trying to establish themselves in the industry and they are banking on that one internship with that big, whatever company it is, they're banking on it. So just like when you were in Harvard and you were playing basketball and you were banking on making it to the NBA, when you found out that you were cut, how did you feel?
That was an extremely difficult time because that was my passion, that was my dream, to play professional basketball. I had it all mapped out. I was going to play 10 years. He talked about professional baseball. I was going to play basketball for 10, 12 years, take that capital and move into some type of entrepreneurial pursuit. But all of that was cut short when the Atlanta Hawks cut me the last day of camp. And it hurt, and I cried. And when I flew back home, I went home and I hid in the house for about 2 weeks because I was extremely embarrassed. But when I stopped to think about why I got cut, you can listen to your peers as, oh man, the coach, showed favoritism because he liked this other guy. You can hear all those excuses, but you know your own heart and you know what you did and didn't do. And when I looked myself in the mirror, I realized that I did not work as hard to stay on top as I did to get to the top. The Bible says, why be concerned about the splinter in your brother's eye when you got a plank in your own eye? So I wasn't going to be pointing the finger of blame at anybody else. I pointed the finger of blame at me because for the 4 years in college, unlike in high school where I worked diligently, studying assiduously to be the best player and student and person that I could be, I got complacent and rested on my laurels. And those 4 years hurt because ultimately there's going to be a due date. And when I got to camp, while I knew I had the talent to play, I hadn't put in the effort to improve and get better. And our high school coach used to say, the best players are made in the off season. And I'm sure you guys and ladies can draw the corollary in terms of whatever it is you're doing in school or anything else. The best, whatever it is you want to be, is being made now, while you are sacrificing and sharpening your skills and learning from an outstanding faculty and staff here. you're preparing while people may not be paying attention to you. But one of the things I noticed in that montage is a sermon that I give that's called Depth Before Height. So what you're in effect doing, and what I didn't do at that time, was I didn't properly prepare a solid foundation. You have to prepare a strong, solid foundation. In the language of architecture, the Washington Monument is the tallest building in Washington, D.C., stands 555 feet high, comprises some 30,000 blocks, and weighs 90,000 tons. But that wonderful edifice that's known the world over, and I use an example figuratively about how the winds and storms and rains beat against it, much like challenges in life. But the building stands tall, not because of what we can see in the superstructure, but because of the foundation that was built. The workers had to go down 4 stories deep and plant a firm foundation before they could build up. And whatever the depth is that you build to, that determines what the height is going to be. You can't come back later and add to that. You got to establish the depth first. So what I didn't do was to establish the proper depth in order to capitalize on that opportunity. And I vowed from that failure in life, Mykia, that I would never allow an opportunity to pass me by that I was not prepared for. And I think it's reflected in the opportunities that have come. And I've had a number of failures, and it has not been an easy road. But with faith and putting in the work, it certainly has worked out.
You took a stand and used your pulpit to speak out against domestic violence with the Ray Rice incident, following the Ray Rice incident. Can you speak about what it took for you to get to that point, to speak on it, and how your corporation viewed it before, if you brought it to him before, or after, if you didn't?
You know, this is where I have so much respect for Mr. Paul Brock in terms of how he explained the history of the NABJ and how people lost their jobs in convening and birthing, if you will, NABJ. So because of efforts like Mr. Brock and so many others, you know, we're all, and you're going to be blessed even more so, to be able to stand on the shoulders of what they've done. And as Reverend Gill said this morning, you have a responsibility to articulate when you see something that is not right and you feel passionate about it. You have a responsibility to speak out properly. That was not by design on my part at all. It happened as a result. I'm pretty much, Professor Keontae, a cause theme, cause related, cause mission kind of person. I get behind efforts, and I don't do many things, but those things that I'm passionate about. And my business partner, if you will, a woman by the name of Monica Hawkins, and we're church members together, and our spouses allow us to work together. You know, that's another whole story. I'll get to that later. But she got me involved with the Verizon Foundation that was headed up by a wonderful Christian sister, Rose Kirk. And it was to bring more awareness to the issue of domestic violence and trying to make a serious dent. I had no idea how pervasive that problem is today, and it cuts across every spectrum, every piece of the spectrum. It's in the church, it's in academia. I had no idea. When I went down to Austin, Texas for my orientation, there are 2 buildings down there. One is the National Hotline Center for women to call into. Next door is a teen hotline center for teenagers. And so I put the headset on, and I'm sitting next to the ladies they call counselors, listening to these women call in and talk about how frightened they were, and to hear the boyfriend, significant other, husband come in. I'm not going to get graphic, but to physically abuse them. I took the headset off, walked over to the window, turned my back to the ladies there, and started crying. It hurt me that badly. When I travel around the country and talk to a lot of coaches perhaps outside of the home, and in many cases more so than the home, have a great influence on young men. But young men in the game of football and so many others, they're taught to resolve problems by smashing things, you know, busting through. You know, the DNA is that we're wired to not show emotion, you know, you got to bow up and all these things that are more attack oriented. So after going through that for 2 years and recognizing that men will have to play the most significant role in addressing this problem by looking at themselves in the mirror. And I feel it even goes down to the language when we talk about, oh, you throw the ball like a sissy, you act like a little girl. Well, what we're doing is subconsciously demeaning the value of women. And women are exceedingly valuable. They talk about men being strong. Please, we can't even compare to women on a whole number of fronts in that regard. And that's real world. So as I continue to be oriented, my assistant, she would help me make certain that I wasn't subconsciously using language that was a reflection of how we have been wired in this society when it comes to women, as opposed to absolutely respecting them totally. So when we get to that issue with Ray Rice and the like, and I had spoken on the same topic before, the year before, when Javon Belcher, the player with the Kansas City Chiefs, killed his girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins. And it's important to mention the name because way too often we don't hear the name of the woman mentioned in this. There was another human being involved in this. When I gave that same commentary there, it was on the NFL Today, but Thursday Night Football, prime time, the whole 9 yards, it just moved me. And all I wanted to say was that men need to speak up and do something. When they see another man engaged in this, we need to talk about that. My brother, that's not right. Let's help me understand we got that kind of relationship so that we can make a dent in that. Because many men have grown up in a household seeing that kind of behavior, and that's all they know, and they think that's right, and it ain't right. And we have to do something about that. The Bible says, Christ treats the church as a bride. Well, we're supposed to treat her. We're supposed to die for our wives. So we need to treat them the same way that we want to be treated as well, too. So that's why I spoke in that. Now, I took some flack. I'm okay with that because I spoke my mind, and my bosses understand that I rarely give commentaries. But when I feel passionate about something, Brother Brock, I'm glad that I was able to go to the bosses and say, I need to say something about this. Like Miss McCain was saying as well, too. I need to speak on this because it's meaningful to me. Rush Limbaugh took me to task the following day with a scathing commentary about it. I consider that a major compliment, coming from him, because what he was saying was that I was trying to chickify football. Give me a break, man. That couldn't be intellectually. Where in the world was he coming from with that remark? Had nothing about chickifying football. I'm talking about how we treat our women, period. Enough said. You get me passionate on that one.
Your degree is in American government, and now you are in broadcast. What type of formal training did you go through in order to become the sportscaster that you are, the television personality that you are today?
So what my niece is saying is that I'm a failure, right? I didn't do anything with my degree, right? No, because I was thinking about becoming an attorney, which is why I was in American government, because I was thinking of pursuing something along those lines. But the good thing about getting a good college education is that it provides a good dictionary degree for you to go in any direction. And I'm sure Dr. Fuse Hall and others can probably tell you that many people don't right out of college get into the field that they're ultimately going to wind up in. They may change professions 2 or 3 times as you pursue whatever your passion is, or as it becomes crystal clear what your real passion is, as I heard my colleagues talking about earlier. When I got cut by the Atlanta Hawks, I was going to go to law school, but because I had been cut late in the season for admission to law school, I wound up working 6 months in local government and then with Xerox in the corporate America. And my attention turned to more entrepreneurial pursuits. And it just so happened that a local personality had me on his TV show and made me aware that there was an opening in the sports department at the local UHF station to do basketball. And of course, I still missed the game, and I thought this was a way, in some ancillary capacity, I could still satisfy my need to be around sports. And I went and auditioned for the job and was blessed to get the job. And then once I got the job, I saw that this was really a career path that could lead to a number of things. And where I am all these years later is kind of blending an interest and a desire. And that's what's led to me being able to be more broad-based and do some things in news and entertainment as well, too. And I thoroughly enjoy it.
If we can do an audience question first, if somebody would like to come up to the
microphones on each side.
I know the relationship you have with Terry Bradshaw. I read about that. It's a dynamic relationship, and I really appreciate that story. But what I want to ask you, how do you keep a balance and a respect factor between you and your coworkers that are not Christians, that live the lifestyle that may not be pleasing to Christ? How do you keep that respect and stay away from being judgmental?
Now, you speak of Terry Bradshaw, and I maintain humorously, because Terry and I are great friends, and I never miss an opportunity to bust his chops. Nobody had a bigger challenge in America working with somebody who was a little different than me working with the self-described lovable redneck Terry Bradshaw.
Exactly.
And here's how. Day one of our football show, this is a true story, so it kind of gives you, so we're sitting at the desk, and people are asking, what kind of show is Fox going to have? They don't know about anything about football. Who's going to host the show? It's going to be Bart Simpson. So we're sitting up there, and the producer says, 2 minutes to air. So Terry considers himself to be the studio veteran. He looks down the dais and he sees Jimmy Johnson. So he looks down at Jimmy and he says, Coach, I know you're just getting fired from the football field, but I tell you what, in case you get a little nervous in the studio, I want you to take a little bit of this Carmex. It was in a little tube like Vaseline. Put just a little bit of this Carmex on your finger and on your lips, and you won't get cotton mouth. Minute 30 to air, he turns to Howie Long. Howie Long, big handsome stud, 13 years with the Raiders, 8 times a Pro Bowler. He says, big boy, I know this is your first TV job full time. Take just a little bit of this Carmex and put it on your lips. So he puts it on his lips. 30 seconds to air. Terry takes it, puts it on his finger, on his lips, and he puts it back in his pocket. He doesn't offer me any. I said, redneck, how come you didn't offer the brother any? He pulls it back out. He looks at my lips, looks at the Carmex, says, you're going to need a whole handful of this for your lips, you know. And we came on the air with them laughing at me, and they did it for 12 years. Marv Levy, the great Buffalo Bills coach, said, personality is what you show to the camera. You know, anybody can put on a show for the camera, but character and integrity are who you are behind closed doors. And they all ought to be the same at all times. I'll never forget what American President Theodore Roosevelt said, which really impressed me. It stuck with me. He said, to educate in mind and not in morals is to create a menace to society. Bottom line is, God knows your heart. You make certain that you are a person of integrity and character, and if you add all this other to you, the other layers, taking advantage of this wonderful faculty and an opportunity to blend with some students that you'll never get a chance, many, to see again in life, that's going to make you that much better a talent. So as you start to rise, we've got some people that we can cheer on and shout about, like young Reverend Gill and the rest of you. Those are the people that folks want to follow because you got some substance in you. Does that make sense? Amen.
Yeah, and if you want to hear a little bit more of it, those people who are listening on satellite radio, what they can do is go to our Bennett College YouTube channel. And there you can see that event in its entirety, plus a lot of the great speakers that come to Bennett College. We have them archived there.
Radio, and you guys stay tuned for the next